It starts with a single puddle in the middle of a sunny day. No rain, no storm, just seawater bubbling up through the pavement on a Miami street corner, soaking the shoes of morning commuters. Miami sits on a geological time bomb. The entire city, 6 million people, $3 trillion in real estate, the cruise capital of the world, rests on a foundation of porous limestone riddled with ancient coral cavities. The science is brutal and simple. Global sea levels are rising at an accelerating rate. Currently 3 millimeters per year, double the pace of 3 decades ago. Walk through Miami Beach today and you'll see the future taking shape. Luxury condos with lobbies 3 feet above the street. Restaurants installing waterproof barriers at their entrances. But here's what makes Miami's situation uniquely catastrophic. Traditional defenses won't work. Amsterdam built dikes. Venice built floodgates. Miami can't. The water doesn't come over the top. It rises through the ground. The city wasn't supposed to exist in the first place. In 1895, Miami was uninhabitable swampland. Mangroves, mosquitoes, and sawgrass stretching to the horizon. Now that borrowed time is running out. Climate scientists have run the models hundreds of times, tweaking variables, hoping for better news. The first neighborhoods to go will be the poorest. Little Haiti sits barely 3 feet above sea level. Yet real estate prices in Miami have never been higher. Luxury towers still sprout along Brickell Avenue, selling penthouses for $20 million with 30-year mortgages. The insurance industry has already made its bet. Premiums for flood coverage in Miami-Dade have tripled since 2015. Miami's government has committed $6 billion to resilience projects, the largest such investment by any American city. They're raising streets, installing massive pumps, elevating buildings. The pumps are the city's first line of defense. 80 massive stations scattered across Miami Beach and downtown, each capable of moving thousands of gallons per minute. Then there's the question no one wants to answer. Where do 6 million people go? Miami isn't an island you can evacuate in a weekend. It's a sprawling metropolitan region with the 8th largest economy in the United States. Some experts propose a radical solution: retreat. Abandon the lowest lying areas, relocate residents inland, turn South Beach into a mangrove preserve, and let the ocean reclaim what was always its domain. But nature doesn't care about politics. In September 2017, Hurricane Irma gave Miami a preview of its future. Storm surge flooded downtown streets with 4 feet of water. Brickell Avenue became a river. The airport shut down. Miami Beach floods 60 times per year during king tides alone. Property values have dropped 8% in flood-prone neighborhoods since 2018. The city spends $500 million annually pumping water out of streets. The storm exposed another terrifying reality. Miami's infrastructure is fragile. Sewage treatment plants flooded, spilling millions of gallons of waste into Biscayne Bay. Saltwater corroded electrical substations. Hospital generators failed. Yet after Irma, the rebuilding began immediately. Cranes rose. Investors returned. The message was clear. Miami isn't going anywhere. But that defiance comes with a price. The wealthiest residents have already made their preparations. Inland neighborhoods west of Interstate 95. Coral Gables, Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay sit 20 to 30 feet above sea level. There's another factor most projections overlook: acceleration. Sea level rise isn't a steady climb, it's a curve. The Greenland ice sheet is melting 6 times faster than it was in the 1990s. Scientists debate the timeline, but they agree on the outcome. Even the most optimistic models show Miami facing catastrophic flooding within this century. The pessimistic ones give the city 30 years, maybe less. Yet Miami continues to grow. The metro population has increased by 1 million people since 2000, and projections show another million arriving by 2040. The city's mayor has called Miami Ground Zero for climate change in America. But Ground Zero suggests an impact site, a place where something exploded. Miami's disaster isn't sudden, and that moment may be closer than anyone wants to admit. Lifetime of a child born today. The question isn't whether Miami will flood. It's whether anyone will be able to afford to live there when it does. Because the water isn't just rising from below. In 2022, 3 major insurance companies pulled out of Florida entirely. Citizens, the state-backed insurer of last resort, became the only option for hundreds of thousands of homeowners. Premiums doubled, then doubled again. Then there's the invisible threat. Beneath Miami lies the Biscayne Aquifer, the sole source of drinking water for 5 million people. Porous limestone. As the ocean rises, salt water doesn't just flood streets. By 2030, engineers estimate 8% of the aquifer's wells will be unusable. By 2040, that number climbs to 18%. There's no plan B. Some neighborhoods are already feeling the squeeze. Liberty City, Little Haiti, Overtown. Historically low income, inland areas that never flooded before. Now they're seeing an influx of wealthier residents fleeing the coast. It's called climate gentrification. Rent in Liberty City jumped 40% between 2020 and 2023. Families who've lived there for generations suddenly can't afford to stay. Meanwhile, coastal luxury condos sit half empty, their owners waiting for the market to stabilize. But the city isn't going down without a fight. Miami Beach has already spent over $500 million on pump systems and raised roads. Ocean Drive, the iconic Art Deco strip, now sits atop freshly elevated pavement. The pumps work, for now, but they're fighting a losing battle. Every year, the ocean rises another 3 millimeters. Every year, the pumps run longer, cost more to maintain, consume more electricity. Miami's foundation is porous, limestone full of ancient coral holes. Seawater seeps up through the ground, making seawalls useless. The city was built on drained swampland just 125 years ago. Then there's the seawall, Miami's last line of defense. 13 feet high in some places, crumbling in others, built decades ago when the ocean was calmer. Some propose a radical solution, a massive barrier across Biscayne Bay, like the Thames Barrier in London or the Maeslantkering in Rotterdam. A storm surge gate that could seal Miami off from the Atlantic during hurricanes. Because that's the cruel irony of Miami's geology. The limestone is porous. You can build a wall 100 feet high and the ocean will still find a way through. In 2023, Miami Beach experienced over 50 tidal flood days. That's flooding with no storm, no rain, just the moon pulling the ocean higher. In 2006, there were 6. The acceleration is exponential. At that point, normal life becomes impossible. Businesses can't operate when their ground floors flood twice a week. Schools can't function when kids can't reach them. Property values collapse. Banks stop issuing mortgages. The spiral begins. But here's what makes Miami's crisis unique. It's not a poor coastal town in Bangladesh or a remote Pacific island. It's the 8th largest metro area in the United States. 6 million people, $400 billion in real estate. Or can you? History is full of abandoned cities. Petra, Angkor, Cahokia. Civilizations that overreached, that depleted their resources, that built in places the environment could no longer sustain. The difference is those cities fell over centuries. Some scientists are already using the word uninhabitable. Not in a century, not in 50 years, within the lifetime of people alive today. Dr. Wanless points to Greenland. The ice sheet there is melting 6 times faster than it was in the 1990s. It's called a pulse event, a black swan. Climate scientists don't know when it will happen, but they know it's possible. And if it does, no pump system, no seawall, no elevated road will matter. Yet people keep building. In 2023, Miami issued more construction permits than any year in its history. Luxury towers with names like Oceana and Aqua, penthouses selling for $40 million, swimming pools on the 50th floor. Or maybe it's denial, the same psychological mechanism that lets us ignore our own mortality. We know the end is coming, but it feels distant, abstract, unreal. Until one day, it isn't. The wealthy, of course, have options. Second homes in Denver, Asheville, the Pacific Northwest, private jets on standby. For them, Miami is a tax haven, a winter playground, a place you visit but don't really live. History suggests the answer. When cities fail, the poor are left behind. They can't afford to move. They have no equity to sell. They ride out the disaster because there's no alternative. Where will they go? Atlanta is already straining under migration pressure. Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, they're building on the coast too, just as vulnerable. Miami experiences over 50 tidal flood days per year now versus 6 in 2006. King tides now push seawater 18 inches above mean high tide twice. Annually, saltwater intrusion has already contaminated 8% of Biscayne aquifer wells. His time, there's no Midwest to flee to that isn't already claimed. The infrastructure to absorb 10 million climate refugees doesn't exist. Roads, schools, hospitals, water systems. None of it is built for the surge. And that's just Miami-Dade. Add New Orleans, Charleston, Norfolk, Boston, New York. The American coastline is a chain of ticking time bombs, and Miami is simply the first to reach zero. Meanwhile, Miami's response has been to spend $500 million on pumps. Massive industrial pumps, buried beneath the streets, sucking seawater out of neighborhoods as fast as it seeps in through the porous limestone. They run 24 hours a day during king tides, 14,000 gallons per minute, and they're already struggling to keep up. Engineers estimate they've bought the city maybe 40 more years. Maybe. 40 years. That's the optimistic forecast, assuming the rate of rise doesn't accelerate, assuming the pumps don't fail, assuming the money keeps flowing. None of those assumptions are safe. The city is also raising streets. Block by block, they're tearing up asphalt and pouring new road beds 2.5 feet higher. The problem is obvious. You can raise the street, but you can't raise the buildings. So now storefronts sit below grade, water pooling at their doorsteps. The fix creates new victims. And still, the luxury real estate market booms. In 2022, condo sales in Miami's flood zones rose 12%. Penthouses selling for $30 million, built 3 feet above sea level. Who buys a sinking house? Foreign investors, mostly. 54% of Miami beach buyers are from overseas, many of them unaware of the flood maps or simply betting they'll sell before the reckoning comes. Domestic buyers are wising up. Insurance premiums have jumped 40% in 3 years, and some carriers have pulled out of Florida entirely. The market is starting to whisper what officials won't say out loud. But whispers don't stop a city. Miami's government is trapped between two nightmares: admit the truth and trigger economic collapse, or stay silent and let people keep building on doomed ground. So they thread the needle. They fund the pumps, raise the streets, commission studies, and issue bonds backed by property taxes that assume those properties will still exist in 30 years. It's a Ponzi scheme with the ocean as the creditor. And the ocean, unlike human lenders, doesn't renegotiate. It doesn't care about quarterly earnings or voter sentiment. It just keeps rising. Some engineers have proposed radical solutions: seawalls, barriers, levees like the ones that guard the Netherlands. But Miami sits on Swiss cheese limestone. The water doesn't need to go over the wall. It goes through. It bubbles up from storm drains, seeps through lawns, rises into basements. You can't wall off an aquifer. The Dutch solution works for the Dutch. Miami is built on geology that guarantees its defeat. Miami-Dade property insurance premiums jumped 102% between 2019 and 2023. 3 major insurers withdrew completely from Florida market in 2022 alone. Condo values in flood zones dropped 1520% faster than inland properties since 2020. Other plans are darker. Managed retreat, they call it. The government buys out homeowners in the worst zones, demolishes the houses, converts the land to wetlands or parks, a euphemism for surrender. A handful of towns in the Carolinas have tried it, buying a few dozen homes after repeated floods. It works, but it's expensive, politically toxic, and scales to maybe a neighborhood, not a metropolis of 6 million. The math is brutal. Buying out 350,000 homes at current market value would cost over $140 billion. The entire annual budget of Florida is a third of that. And even if the money existed, where would those people go? Who absorbs a city's worth of refugees? So instead, the city fights. It fights with pumps and elevated roads and hurricane-resistant glass. It fights because surrender is unthinkable, and because hope, even false hope, keeps the tax base intact. But every engineer who studied the problem privately agrees the fight is buying time, not victory. The question isn't if Miami goes under. It's when and what happens to the people who stayed too long. Because the ocean doesn't come all at once. It comes in inches, in king tides, in sunny day floods that strand you in traffic. It comes in mortgage defaults and insurance cancellations and the slow realization that your home is worthless. The disaster isn't a hurricane. It's a Tuesday afternoon when you can't sell, can't insure, can't leave. That's when Miami stops being a city and becomes a trap. The banks know something the realtors won't say. In 2023, Wells Fargo quietly stopped issuing 30-year mortgages for properties in flood zones below 8 feet elevation. Chase followed. Then Bank of America. They're not waiting for 2050. The federal government sees it too. FEMA's updated flood maps, released in draft form, reclassify 87% of Miami Beach as extreme risk. That designation doesn't just raise insurance. It triggers mandatory buyout clauses in thousands of commercial leases. Here's what the collapse looks like in real time. A condo tower sells in 2020 for $340 million. In 2024, the same building, same units, same view, appraises at $180 million. No hurricane hit it, no scandal. The wealthy are already gone. Hedge fund managers who bought penthouses in 2015 sold at a loss in 2022 and moved to Austin, to Nashville, to anywhere with bedrock. Some are trying to fight. A coalition of homeowners sued Miami-Dade County in 2023, demanding the $4 billion pumping system the county promised in 2018 and never built. The case is still in court. Meanwhile, the city keeps building. A $900 million casino resort broke ground in 2024, 3 blocks from the water. The developer's own environmental assessment admits the site will flood annually by 2040. They're building it anyway. There's a term for this in economics: terminal investment. When you know an asset is doomed, you extract every last dollar before it dies. Miami has become the largest terminal investment in American history. The human cost is incalculable. Miami-Dade public schools are already losing teachers who can't afford insurance. Hospitals are closing coastal clinics. In 2023, 3 firehouses shut down because the buildings themselves were uninsurable. Miami Beach spent $500 million on pump systems since 2014, buying maybe 40 years. Each pump station moves 14,000 gallons per minute, running constantly during king tides. The city now elevates streets 5 feet at a cost of $5 million per block. And the storms are getting worse. Hurricane Ian in 2022 was a preview. Storm surge flooded neighborhoods that had never flooded before, places the old maps said were safe. Scientists now say the models were too optimistic. The rate of sea level rise is accelerating. What they predicted for 2070 is happening in 2040. What they predicted for 2100 might arrive before 2060. There's talk of managed retreat, a euphemism for abandonment. The federal government would buy out homeowners at pre-crash prices, demolish the buildings, and turn the land back to wetland. It sounds humane, but the funding doesn't exist. So what happens instead is chaos. No plan, no coordination, just millions of people making individual decisions to stay or go, and a real estate market in free fall. The ones who leave first get out whole. Some cities adapt. Miami can't. Rotterdam built floating neighborhoods. Venice installed floodgates. But those cities sit on solid ground. Miami is built on Swiss cheese. You can't gate what seeps through the bottom. There's a monument being planned, a memorial to the city that will be lost. A time capsule to be sealed in 2030 and opened in 2100 when Miami is gone. Residents are debating what to put inside: photos, deeds. But the darkest question isn't whether Miami will drown. It's what drowning does to a society. When millions are displaced, where do they go? When trillions in wealth evaporate, who pays? Miami is the canary. After it comes Charleston. After Charleston comes Savannah. After Savannah comes Norfolk. After Norfolk comes half of Florida. After Florida comes Louisiana. After Louisiana comes the eastern seaboard. And yet, even now, people are booking flights to Miami. Tourists are still coming, still sunbathing on South Beach, still drinking mojitos in Art Deco bars 3 feet above sea level. A bartender on Ocean Drive said it best: "We all know it's ending. We just don't know when. So we keep pouring drinks and smiling at the sunset and pretending tomorrow isn't coming." That's Miami now. In 30 years, this will all be memory. The skyline will be ruins. The beaches will be reefs. The Art Deco buildings will be dive sites. But here's the thing we forget. We're not wondering. We're watching. We have the science. We have the data. We have the satellite images showing the water rising inch by inch. There's still time. Not to save Miami. That's done. But to save the next one. To move people before the water comes, to stop building in flood zones, to admit what's happening and act. Miami will go under. That's certain now. The city that never sleeps is about to sleep forever. And when it does, we'll all be complicit. Because we saw it coming. We counted the years. We watched the water rise. And we did nothing.